Hello, and welcome to this installment of the Future Grind podcast. I'm your host, Ryan O'Shea, and today we'll be speaking with Adam Hofmann, the Vice President of Marketing for Singularity University. Singularity University describes itself as a global learning and innovation community using exponential technologies to tackle the world's biggest challenges and build a better future for all. It was founded in 2008 by Peter Diamandis and Ray Kurzweil, and it currently offers online and in-person educational programs for individuals, incubator programs for startups, and leadership and innovation trainings for organizations. SU also focuses on media. They put out content through Singularityhub, and just recently announced their acquisition of Futurism, a digital media company that focuses on both distribution and production. Needless to say, SU is involved in a lot. And that's why I think that Adam, as their head of marketing, is the perfect person to tell us what they're all about. We discuss their goal of using exponential technology to conquer the world's biggest challenges, their focus on communities, a future of abundance, and more. The Singularity University Global Summit is coming up from August 19th to 21st, 2019 in San Francisco, and we have a special offer for Future Grind listeners. This is SU's premier annual gathering, which brings together 2,000 changemakers for incredible talks on AI, VR, blockchain, the future of work, robotics, and more. You can save 10% on tickets by entering discount code FutureGrind during payment. Visit futuregrind.org for links and full information. We hope to see you in San Francisco for the Global Summit. As always, show notes and links are available at futuregrind.org. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, and wherever podcasts are found. A video version of this episode is posted on Facebook and YouTube. Make sure to subscribe on all of these platforms, leave a review, and you can also like, comment, and share to spread the word. If you'd like to keep this podcast running, you can donate at futuregrind.org/support. Or you can purchase some of our newly released products at futuregrind.org/store. Because of you, this is Future Grind. All right, and now we are here with Adam. Adam, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ryan.
So Singularity University does and is involved with a lot. There's a broad educational component, there are talks and live events, there's the creation and distribution of original content, and we can get into all of those components in more detail. But generally speaking, what is Singularity University and what's the mission?
Yeah, I'm sitting over here smiling because you did a really great job, I think, of most of what we do, and that ends up being one of the most interesting things, I think, to get people started with. So Singularity University, our mission is to educate, inspire, and empower leaders to apply exponential technologies to solve humanity's biggest challenges, right? So we want people out there taking AI and blockchain to figure out food security and how do we distribute good, healthy food to the world. We want people thinking about how to make clean water available to everybody. How do we make the world more inclusive? How do we provide shelter to the masses? All those types of things. And we really do that by working with individuals, startups, and large organizations, both for-profit, nonprofit, governments, through a variety, most of what you said, programs, events. We do a lot of kind of custom workshops and whatnot with the different groups as well. And I'm happy to go into each one of those programs.
And there's this term, Exponential Technologies, that comes up a lot when we're talking about Singularity University. When you talk about exponential technologies, what are you referring to? And can you give an example of this tech and perhaps the challenges it might be able to solve?
Definitely. When I talk to my mom about exponential technologies, I just kind of ask her, what are the technologies that you hear about that sound really crazy and far off into the future, right? And so, she can usually come back at this point in time and say something about artificial intelligence or, blockchain, or maybe even I'll get a 3D printing in there. But when we think about it at SU, exponential technologies are the ones that are rapidly accelerating and completely reshaping industries and all aspects of our lives. And for technology in our mind really to be exponential, on the technical side, like the power and or speed doubles each year, or the cost is dropping really quickly. So what are the technologies that are becoming more and more available to people to use, to innovate with, to solve these big problems? And in terms of like, how are we seeing these things used, or, where do we see these opportunities? We work on a lot of cool projects, and I think a lot of the startups that are in our portfolio, we have 62 of them at this point in time. They've raised well over $600 million in capital. We've got really, really interesting ones. I think one of the ones that jumps out to me is Deep Blocks, that's doing a lot with artificial intelligence and kind of housing planning, real estate development. So they've got some artificial intelligence in what they're building out. They're leveraging blockchain as well. I think another one that ended up being fairly popular or well known for sure is Be My Eyes. And that one is one that I think became available to the masses a lot faster. And what they aimed to do was help people with sight challenges, right? And so they built an app that allows somebody who can't see or has trouble seeing to basically, hold up their phone to what they're trying to look at, connect with somebody who does have sight, and then that person can kind of help them navigate whatever they're trying to figure out. They've done a lot more now, I think, with adding some artificial intelligence and some image recognition in there to make it more efficient. But those are just kind of two examples in totally different spaces of how our companies and our community are really applying these technologies.
So, talk to me about some of SU's most popular programs. What are they and what happens in them?
I think our most popular programs, when people think about Singularity University at this point, we've been around for 10 years now. And our flagship program, we affectionately call it the GSP, and it's had those three letters have had many different words. I think it started off as one thing, and now it's the Global Startup Program. And that was really the core of SU when we got going. And what that program aimed to do was to bring the smartest, most ambitious people from a very diverse background into this 10-week long summer program to ideate and come up with solutions to these really big problems using exponential technologies. And really what that has evolved into now is we go now and we work with early stage companies. So the founders have already come together. They've already been iterating on something. They've found their problem space. And it's now a year-long program to help them get to product market fit, fundraise, find mentors, and really get the right foundation to help them start scaling. Our other flagship program that most people know at SU is our executive program. What's really exciting about that one is we've got 8 programs that happen at our headquarters in California, but we now have 7 regional partners around the world that deliver local executive programs, which are kind of shorter, abbreviated versions of our flagship program. And that one, we're bringing together Fortune 1000 executives to come and learn about these technologies, to learn about the opportunities that are out there in their world for the organizations or them as individuals to really go and have that double impact of you've got positive returns to shareholders if you're a corporation while also doing good in the world. Help them wrestle with ethics and policy and all that comes with rapid technological change, and really help them create a network for good as they go back out into the world and try to do some really big things. And then the last one that I'll say is gaining popularity right now for sure is our membership offering for individuals called Abundance Digital. And what's cool about that one is Peter Diamandis really started that himself in the last couple of years. And that's now evolved into something that we're really making available to everybody, and really trying to grow for the people that want to stay plugged in a more sort of intentional and ongoing hands-on sort of fashion throughout the year. You get the latest in technology, you get live webcasts, you get collaboration opportunities, and we kind of mix that in with some in-person events as well for the people that want to attend.
So, we've established that SU does a lot, but it seems that many of these programs were created as time went on. What's the story of the beginning of SU, and how did that come about?
Yeah, so like I said, SU is 10 years old at this point in time, and what it originally started was Peter Diamandis and Ray Kurzweil, two of our founders, came together and they said, I think Ray on the technology side, so people have access to these technologies that were previously locked away in large rooms at universities, but now anybody with a computer or a smartphone can have access to these things. And Peter, after he wrote Abundance and I think had more interactions with Ray, was really like, and we've got these big problems. The world's getting better, but we've got all these technologies can accelerate making the world better faster for everybody. And so, boom, Singularity's made. We start off, like I said, with our executive program and our global solutions program at that time. And then, you run a couple of those and you end up with this community of alumni, if you will, that are out there in the world, and they've got the next problem that they're trying to solve. And so, the natural evolution of SU started with starting to work more with large organizations, because you might get an executive that leaves a program and goes back and starts talking about how they're going to, change the world at their organization, and they need support. And so, we start doing some programs with large organizations. Starts off, kind of looking like consulting, but then really evolves into our own framework about innovation and accelerating change at these large organizations. And then really since then, you can kind of look across our entire ecosystem, and we've found ways to scale really by just continuing to solve the problems that our customers have. And so, like I said, we've got 7 regional partners in 11 countries. They're all delivering, versions of our programs to their local audiences that are customized to the challenges that they're facing in their countries and their regions. We have 156 chapters that are led by volunteers all around the world that, host smaller events to just bring the community together. We run these things we call impact challenges all around the world to generate ideas. And so it just really started to evolve into ways for us to run these programs and events. And the most recent thing that I'm very excited about is the shift that we're making, the evolution that we're going through from, running physical in-person programs to building out more of a platform for our community to drive that innovation globally and allow people to really come together, connect, learn, and collaborate. I think that's the piece that I'm most excited about. Our future scale is actually becoming more of a technology and platform company as opposed to an events and a programs company.
You mentioned so much there that I'm going to want to talk about in more detail later, your online community and partners and chapters, for example, but you use the word customers there. When Singularity University thinks about their customers, who is that?
Our customers end up falling into, I would say, 3 main buckets, each obviously with nuances depending on, if you're a marketer and we're talking about personas, or if you're just a person trying to figure out how to work with SU. And we really think about the individual, and the individual can kind of break down into, I'm a senior level leader at a large organization, be it a for-profit, a nonprofit, somebody from government. Those kind of end up being the big individual groups that we serve. We've also had some, amazing entrepreneurs come through our programs as well as individuals. The next grouping is definitely startups, and this is for, I'd say, the earlier stage companies that we look for startups that are trying to impact over 1 billion people. And they're generally bringing something very new and cutting edge to market, which means they need a special kind of mentoring and support model and runway to really get them there. And then the third bucket is the large organizations. And so, we've done projects with large nonprofits. We've worked with large corporations like Lowe's to HSBC, to be able to go and drive innovation inside their company while also trying to do good out in the world. And so those are what I would say are kind of the 3 big buckets that, kind of break down to their own segments of who we serve as a company.
So just to clarify for anyone who might still be confused at this point, Singularity University is not a university in how we might typically think of it. It's not a degree-granting institution. Is that right? What's the story of the name?
For sure. So when the company first started, the vision was that we're going to create a university of the future, right? And so I think it was kind of an aspirational thing to call it university and to really redefine what we do, because we do view ourselves in some respects as an educational institution. But you're correct. We don't grant degrees. We don't grant any certifications, anything like that. And so, the university can be somewhat of a misnomer, given how much we've evolved from our original programs at our NASA campus in Silicon Valley.
So now let's get to you. What is your background, and how did you find your way to SU and your current role?
My background is kind of all across the board, but I don't know. I'll see if I can string it together for our listeners in some way that makes sense. I think it's probably easiest to talk about how I found Singularity University. So, started off my career as a consultant, technology consultant. Then I went and helped to build out a ed tech incubator at a foundation called the Hofmann Foundation. And Hofmann introduced me to a lot of different ecosystems. And one of the players that I got to meet was Singularity. And so I flew out to Singularity, and I got to see one of the GSP, so these startups presenting what they're working on. And I remember seeing this company. Their vision was to be able to build these towers on the ground that could beam energy to rockets. And so I'm standing in the back of the room listening to this company pitch this vision, and I'm thinking to myself, holy cow, how are they going to do this? Who are these people? I need to learn more about this place. And so I just kind of stayed plugged in and watched them. And then that really launched my startup career. Started a couple companies that had to do with peer-to-peer marketplaces. So I got into the marketplace world for a little bit. Then I played in the chatbot space for a while, started a company called Assist with a couple friends. And then at that point in time, I was kind of needed a break from the early stage startup thing, reached out to some folks at Singularity and said, hey, do you have anything that I could do here? They said, yeah, we could use some help with marketing. And so I've had a wonderful career so far at Singularity. I've got to work on marketing. I've got to bring some new products to market, such as our online courses and our memberships. And now I've come back to marketing and really focused on how we can get our brand out to more of the masses and just make people aware of this mindset and the possibility of making the world a better place with technology, to really get more people motivated and excited about solving these big problems and not feeling so doom and gloom that we get when we watch the news or read the headlines every morning about how terrible everything is, and really thinking about how do we make this world a better place and one that we all want to live in.
So, SU was founded in 2008, which means we've had over a decade of people participating in and completing these programs. So, who were some of your success stories? Who were some companies that went through your programming that are now using exponential tech to make the world a better place?
Yes, for sure. And I wish that I had more that I could talk about on the corporate side, and even the nonprofit side. But a lot of that stuff ends up being under wraps, at least until it becomes known, and they do their launch, and then we get to talk about some cool project that we worked on with them. So I'll focus mostly on the startup side for the purpose of this, but a couple that I'll call out. The team from GetAround went through the GSP, and for those of you that don't know what GetAround is, it's a peer-to-peer car sharing service. And so the problem that they were trying to solve was, how do we reduce the number of cars that are on the road and do that through car ownership? And they've since evolved, and they're still core to doing that. But I think they've got a much bigger mission now, and gone on to raise a ton of money, and they're still alive and kicking. Another one that people may have heard of that is super exciting is a company called Made in Space. You may have seen them in the headlines several years ago because they put the first 3D printer on the International Space Station, and that allowed the astronauts up there to print supplies on demand in space. And I think that the vision that Jason at Made in Space has always had has been, how do we manufacture things in space so that we don't need to blast up rockets to get there? And then once we can figure out how to make stuff in space, well, that opens up a lot of possibilities, including building entire worlds up there. And then I think another one that I'm super excited about is Matternet. And what Matternet started off as was a drone company, and their vision, I think, was to, in simple terms, to go and deliver vaccines to remote areas using drones, which by itself, like, awesome, very, very viable thing to go and do. It's a huge problem when it comes to health. And now they really evolved into a platform for drones and all autonomous vehicles. But they've worked on projects with the Swiss Post for how do they deliver mail with drones. And so they've gone from kind of being the service provider to the platform provider, which I think is a really exciting evolution that they've gone through themselves. So as you can see, we've got stuff dealing with space, we've got stuff dealing with drones and health and vaccines. We also have things on the nonprofit side. One of the companies, they're trying to figure out, how do you create basically like a small kit that you can drop into disaster zones that allows them to 3D print or create on demand the supplies that they need, to help these more remote communities be more resilient when it comes time to dealing with really big disasters. And so we've got people innovating with blockchain, with artificial intelligence, some really cool stuff with health. We've had one company that the gist of it is basically like, you give them some DNA so they know more about you, and if you're battling cancer, they can basically run that through their system and come back and tell you which combination of drugs is most likely going to help you heal faster. because what ends up happening is doctors kind of have to make their best guess at what's the right combination of drugs to get this person better. And so by looking at somebody's DNA and a ton of data, they can quickly make a better, more educated guess how to help this person get healthy faster. So I think those are a couple. If there's any like specific areas that you're interested in, I can probably think of an example to share.
Well, I think that many people in my audience might be familiar with some of those companies, but I personally had no idea that they had a connection to Singularity University, so that's great to find out. So, SU was founded as a nonprofit organization in 2008, but in 2012 it became a benefit corporation, which is a type of for-profit corporate entity that includes a component of social responsibility. What was the reason for this change in entity type? And did it affect the way that SU does business at all?
That's one that's definitely before my time. So I can speak at the level that I know what the kind of B Corporation has meant to me as an employee so far. And so when we talk about it, yeah, you nailed it, right? It's the combination of social responsibility that a for-profit business has and is structured as, but also one that has the social impact component. And so there are a variety of reasons that we went from a nonprofit to a for-profit type entity. One of them certainly was that what we're trying to do is to get people out there solving really big problems that make the world a better place. And so that in and of itself is social impact, right? You figure out how you can do vertical farming, or we've got some companies that are experimenting with 3D printing food and organs and things like that provide health and wellness benefits to people around the world. That's absolutely fantastic. And if we can put our time and energy and resources behind that, I think that's great. But it also shows up in how we run our business on a day-to-day basis, from things like are we using recyclable materials in our programs and at our coffee station, and are being responsible with generating or at least using renewable energy when we can. And that's where we love to be able to use some of the startups in our portfolio. We've got this one company called Semtiv. They make some smaller wind turbines that allow you to generate your own energy if you're a smaller business. So we always look for opportunities to be creative, work with our own portfolio of companies in our community to bring some of the green and sustainability stuff into our business as well.
So some of these programs can be quite expensive. Just looking at the website, the executive program runs just under $15,000 for 6 days. The Exponential Innovation Program is $5,500 for 3 days. The Global Startup Accelerator Program is $30,000 for 8 in-person weeks. And even the online courses cost around $500 for 8 to 12 hours. It's pretty clear that these programs are valuable, and the instruction and guidance that people receive can be extremely beneficial. But many people have great ideas and can't afford these programs. Are there scholarships or discounts available?
We've definitely had discounts and scholarship programs in the past, and it really just depends on who we're partnering with at that moment in time, and what does it look like in terms of the diversity that we're trying to bring into these programs. We're going to take a knock for anything. It's certainly going to be for one that is being a little bit more exclusive because of our pricing. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about our future direction. As one example that you mentioned, yes, the online courses are $500 each right now, but I think that the vision for those certainly is to make those more accessible to more and more people, and to really think about how do we make our frameworks and kind of what's core to SU available to the masses. And then for those people that really want to jump in and dig in with one another, you can come to a program. And I think our programs end up being a little bit more on the expensive side because of the experience that we deliver. The GSP, as you mentioned, this year, we completely rebooted it, which meant that because it was new, we didn't necessarily have the sponsors that we've had in the past that have made that program free or come at a reduced cost. And so that really allowed us, one, to get people in that were really committed to it. And then we've definitely worked with different groups to get more folks into the executive program, because that sort of level of diversity of thought and background really adds to these programs. And so that stuff's important to us. And I'm really excited about the opportunity to make our programs more accessible over time. And then, yeah, like you said, discounts. We've got our global summit coming up. We've always got some kind of special running for that, because we really want as many people as possible to come to it. And Ryan, if you're up for it, we can do a 10% off for the Future Grind community. If you guys just do Future Grind at registration, Ryan, I'll give you a link. You can maybe post it in the show notes, and we can see if we can get some of the viewers or listeners out to Global Summit this year.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. I'll make sure to put that code and relevant links in the show notes at futuregrind.org so that anyone can take advantage of that offer and attend the SU Global Summit. So, what is admission into these programs like? Are they open to anyone who can pay, or is there a selection process that admits or denies people based on their ideas and skills and other criteria like we typically see in universities?
Yes, so it really depends on the program, but I would say the ones that you see that are listed out on our website under in-person programs, those are the ones that end up being more selective. So I think everything that we do has some type of application. Those just end up being a really nice screening mechanism to make sure that people are really bought into coming and doing work with us, because our programs are very experiential. They can be pretty intense. We're talking multiple days where you're just on all the time. But mostly what we use applications for to make sure that we've got the right group of people coming together, that the group is going to have a diversity of backgrounds, of expertise, of thinking, because that really is what drives, I think, the experience that people go back home and talk about. So our executive program is probably our most, let's call it, selective program. And that one is making sure that the people that are going to come are going to get a lot out of it. And then two, how do we make up the right cohorts? If we only have 90 seats in a program, or in some cases 50 seats, what is the right blend of those 50 people? We don't want to have a bunch of people from one company all in one program, or a bunch of people from just the United States. We really have to make sure that we've got the right people with the right backgrounds to create super diverse programs. And so that really ends up being what our admissions team does across the board, is to build those right cohorts so that everybody has a fantastic experience.
So, I imagine that one of the biggest benefits of attending SU programming is the direct access that you get to the amazing faculty members, staff, mentors, and advisors that you've assembled. Can you give a few examples of who these people are and the domain expertise they have?
Yes, that's definitely one of the biggest draws, I think, to people that come here, is not only the staff, which obviously I'm biased. I think the staff here is fantastic, but our experts. And as I was mentioning earlier, with our expansion globally over the last, call it 3 to 5 years, we've really built out that group of experts. And to us, the experts look like, there are some folks that we call faculty. There are some people that are more on the mentor side of things, and then there's people that facilitate programs. And so we have all these different types of experts that are in here that really make up this group. And so we're lucky that we've got people like Dr. Daniel Kraft in the medicine space. He's really the champion behind our event called Exponential Medicine. That happens every single year, and is just super well connected. He's a doctor himself, and so he's very plugged into what's happening in medicine and the future of it. We've got folks like Ramez Nam. He's definitely a favorite on energy and the environment. He's also a science fiction writer. So if you haven't read any of his books, I highly recommend them. They're fantastic and very entertaining. But like the guy is just super smart. Andre Wegner is one of our top people when it comes to digital manufacturing. So anything 3D printing related at the enterprise level. One of my personal favorites and buddy of mine is Aaron Frank. So anything that comes to augmented reality, virtual reality, he and I also geek out about the future of sports. And so if you go to su.org/about/faculty, or just search for faculty on the su.org website, you can see our list of folks. We're well over 500, and that includes all of our international faculty as well. And those folks, I've just been incredibly impressed. Anytime that I meet them, I got into a discussion with a guy named Adam. I'm forgetting what Adam's last name is. From South Africa, who he's an expert in a lot of things, but we were talking about brain to computer interfaces and the signals that our brains are ultimately giving off, and how we're just being able to start measuring them. I mean, I saw a company last week that's it's a headset this isn't Singularity related, but it's a headset that you can put on, and now all of a sudden all you have to do is think, and you can control your computer. And so you really start to think about that, and it's like, oh wow, okay, my brain's giving off all these signals. What are the future implications of doing those things? So we've got people that are thinking about that stuff on a fairly regular basis. And I'll add to that, if real quick, is that if you also go on our website, you'll see some buttons in the top now that say log in and sign up. So if you create an account with us, you can also go in and search our entire community. And so we'll call out these people that on that page in particular that we call faculty. They're the ones that are up on stage talking about this stuff. But the people that come through our programs and are part of this community are also experts in their own right. We get some like very senior level people from all over the world that, in some cases we'll get into, live debates with our faculty about, specific technologies. And so I'd definitely recommend going in and kind of browsing our community. You can search by technology area, you can search by interest area, and find people near you that are interested in what you're interested in.
That was my exact next question. I was going to ask about the online community, which I'm a member of and I really enjoy. So you talked a bit about it there, but I'd love to find out more. Who are the members of this community and how is it used?
Yeah, for sure. So our online community right now, if we're talking about the people that have an account and are part of our digital platform, we've got close to 80,000 people now that are on it in some form or fashion every single month, which is really exciting. And the tools that we've made available to them at this point in time are what I call pretty straightforward community and networking tools. So when you log in, you've got a profile, you can search and find other members, you can connect with them, you can send them messages, you can browse their profile, obviously, see the types of projects they're working on. You can add the projects, we call them impact initiatives, that you're working on so that other people can see it and say, maybe reach out to you, Ryan, and say, oh, hey, Ryan, I see you're working on, something related to blockchain. Let's get together and talk about that. And so, we're really just starting to invest more and build that out. And I think the vision there is certainly exciting because all those tools right now are free. And then, as I mentioned earlier, for the people that want a more premium experience, we've got Abundance Digital that kind of upgrades that experience to one that has a much more active, discussions and forums, weekly webcast. You'll hear from Peter Diamandis live every once in a while, as well as a lot of our faculty that'll kind of join in there. Some premium level content, reports, things like that are available in the more upgraded area.
Yeah, abundance is a word that is used a lot when talking about Singularity University. It's the name of the 2012 book by Peter Diamandis and Stephen Kotler. And as you mentioned there, Abundance Digital is the name of Peter's exclusive online community. And abundance is something that many members of the SU community proclaim to be working towards. But a world of abundance would bring about significant change. We understand that the value of something is largely determined by supply and demand. If the supply of something is high, as you'd find in a state of abundance, the value of that thing is low. Now that some things, such as information and digital goods, can be duplicated and shared at near zero marginal cost, some have resorted to creating and maintaining what I'll refer to as artificial scarcity to keep the value of something high. And this could impact for-profit entities such as Singularity University. If you succeed in this stated goal of creating abundance, you kill your own business model in the process. How is Singularity University thinking about this?
That is a fantastic question, and in being totally candid, I don't think anybody really has the right answer for it yet. Because as you mentioned, you gotta figure out somehow how to keep the lights on in the business, right? You've got to pay people salaries, and you've got operating costs, and do all those types of things. And so the way that I think about it, and I think we're starting to think about it a little bit more this way, is there's going to be a base set of features, functionality, resources, like depending on what industry or space that you're operating in, that should just be available to everybody. And then there's usually going to be a group of people that are willing to pay for something that is a little bit more premium. I think philosophically, and I'll speak for me now, not on behalf of Singularity University. We've got to figure out what that right balance is, and it's something that I think about. I don't want to say deeply, because I think that would maybe not be doing it justice or not be totally honest, but it is something that's top of mind for me is, if the wealth gap that we are starting to see, right? Where you've got people that have a tremendous amount of capital that have access to the best things in the world. How do you find that right blend? Because like, yeah, okay, great, they can pay for it. Is the right move to totally redistribute that wealth? Will you go down some pretty weird rabbit holes having those types of conversations? But how do you really make the world equitable, and how do you determine base human needs that everybody should have, and then acknowledge that that's going to change over time? Right? Like, we might say, okay, everybody should be able to have access to a clean 2,000 calorie diet a day. Okay, then everybody has that. What's the next problem that we're going to have to go figure out once everybody has, clean, healthy, good food? And I think that that's the mindset that we have to have, is we're probably never going to get to a world that is this like utopia. And I don't really believe that people are trying to work towards that at Singularity University. I think it's just continuous improvement and providing, once things do become accessible and the cost is near zero, let's get that to as many people as possible, as fast as possible, and continue to innovate and use the resources that we have to get there.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have very strong feelings about this, and it's going to be interesting to see how individual companies and we as a society deal with this. So earlier you mentioned SU local chapters, which you have in cities throughout the world. What are these chapters, and what do they focus on?
For sure. I think this is a great part of our community that kind of comes back to the how are you making things more accessible? And so these 156 chapters, they are run mostly by people that have been through some type of Singularity University program. We've just now recently started to offer the chapter license to folks that are just really great community members. Maybe they haven't been through a program, but they've got the expertise, they talk the talk, they walk the walk. And so we really look for the right leaders to grow these local presences. And what they'll end up looking like is, they're kind of all across the board, but the best ones, what they offer is a local community of people, and it's anywhere from 50 to 1,000 people, usually in a city, that will, some of them have Facebook pages and Facebook groups. All of them host free events for people to come to and join, and they'll bring in a speaker, they'll have some networking, they might do some type of hackathon or brainstorming together. And so it's really up to these local leadership teams to come together to say, how and what do we want to deliver to our local community? And some of them take on big community projects. They figure out how to work with their local government or nonprofits, or even some organizations to work on projects together. And so it's really the local and physical in-person gathering of our community around the world. And you don't have to have been through a program. You don't have to pay for anything to go to these things. Like, you can just show up and hang out with other like-minded people that want to use technology to solve really big problems.
SU has had some great partners, supporters, and sponsors: Google, Deloitte, XPRIZE, Genentech, Amnesty International, UNICEF, and many more. How do some of these partnerships come about, and what's the purpose of them? What makes companies such as Google and Deloitte want to support your efforts?
Every single day, I find myself being just extremely grateful that we have the brand that we have, and that we've been able to develop this global community over the last 10 years that is just so passionate and inspired to go and do great things. And I think that first and foremost gets noticed. Some of these folks, started off, somebody came to our program and they were, blown away and wanted to continue working with us. And that just evolved into a bigger and bigger relationship. And, some of them came from relationships that our founders have had, or other staff members that have really brought people in and said, hey, there's an opportunity here that's bigger than either one of us could tackle on our own. Let's figure out how to go do that together. And so, we talk about this idea of uncommon partners. And I think a lot of our partners really embody that. And what that means to us is, an uncommon partner is when you get a large organization. This is one example: large organization and a startup and a nonprofit. All three of those come together to solve a problem together, where they would probably be all off individually solving those things, but they want to come together because they know that the results are going to be greater than any one of them are going to do on their own. And so, we get a lot of people, a lot of our partners come to us for a variety of reasons. As you can imagine, we've got a great brand presence. Some of them are very interested in being associated with, a brand that is all about the future and using technology for good. Some of them are about wanting to build things with us Some of them are about wanting to, access the community and really come in and drive collaboration. And these partnerships also have just completely, changed and evolved. Mostly the partnerships have certainly grown in terms of how we work with them, and but also the focus has changed. I think Google is a really great example. For a while they were very, very interested in the startup side of things. Now, we're kind of reworking what that relationship looks like, and working on some exciting things there. And so I think it really depends, but it all kind of comes back to wanting to partner and bring together really fantastic organizations to do bigger things than we'd be able to do on our own.
So let's say I'm convinced and I want to get involved with SU and your programming. How do I start?
Ooh, the how do I get started question. This one is my favorite. I think the best way to get involved right now that is super easy, doesn't cost anybody anything, is to go to some of our media properties. We've got Singularityhub, which is a fantastic resource, and then we've recently started working with Futurism, which is a very, very exciting acquisition. So you've got great content that you can start consuming. The SU blog is fantastic, so we've got tons of content for you, just to start taking in. So you're going to start learning about what we talk about, see some of the topics, meet some of our experts, things like that. Then go and connect in the online community that I mentioned. Create an account, go poke around, find some people near you, join your local chapter, and like I said, all this stuff is just open out there. We want as many people coming in and checking the stuff out as possible. If you want to go to a program and really feel and experience Singularity University in person, I think our most upcoming event is our global summit that happens in August 19th to the 21st. That's a great one to show up to and really get plugged in. And then, from there, just see what lights you up. Do you want to stay plugged in and, go deeper on the digital community side of things? Check out Abundance Digital. Do you want to come back for another program? We offer deep dives in, innovation. We've got a new program launching that focuses on leadership and, what do the leaders of the future need to be successful? Is it a startup program that more floats your boat? But that's kind of my intro path for everybody is come in, explore, see what feels best for you, what lights you up, and what path you want to go down, and we probably have something for you.
Yeah, I wanted to get a bit more into that Futurism acquisition that you mentioned there. So Futurism, of course, is a New York-based digital media company that puts out some great content, and I'm very excited to see how SU leverages and makes use of this new resource. What can we expect to see moving forward?
Absolutely. Yeah. And, I'm like you said, I'm very excited to see how we're really going to fully leverage this. I think we're just now starting to scratch the surface. And this acquisition is a whole new thing for me that I've never been through before. And so it's been fun really working with that team. They have a fantastic group of people in New York and really around the world that make Futurism work. But some specific things that I'm excited about, their media site, futurism.com, produces some really great content. I think they've got one of the best Instagrams out there. If that's your jam, definitely go and check it out. But behind the scenes, they have such a super studio production capability. They do a lot with big brands. You've probably all seen some of the campaigns that they've built for large organizations that are talking about the future and the role that organization hopes to play and kind of their vision for the future. They're also involved in a lot when it comes to some potential TV shows, maybe even movies in the future, which I think are pretty cool opportunities. And so for us at Singularity, the big attraction there was, well, one, Alex Clokas, who started it, he came through Singularity University. So he's another one of our community members that went off and did something big and fantastic like Futurism. So it's fun to be able to kind of come full circle with Alex and that team, and to look at it from, like you mentioned, not only a distribution. So how do we get this type of content in front of more people that shows the possibility of the future, the possibility of technology, but also, from a brand perspective, is like we're very, very brand aligned. And it just made more sense for us to be working on this together. We've made sure that Futurism stays completely editorial independent. We definitely didn't want to touch that. And so most of, I think, the capabilities that we're taking advantage of are, like I said, on the behind the scenes when it comes to their studio, their production, things like that we can then use to grow our presence and brand around the world.
And you've also recently launched a new podcast, Singularity University Radio. which I've been greatly enjoying and recommending that people check out. So is there anything else that SU has in the pipeline? What's next for SU?
Yeah, I can talk about a couple things. So glad you called out the podcast. It's coming into today. I was definitely thinking about it myself, and that's an experiment that we're running. And I think what's cool about that is it really highlights the experimental mindset that we're trying to embody as a company. And that came about because there's a small group of people. Well, people have said that SU should have a podcast for a long time, so we'll just put that out there. But there was enough people that came together and said, hey, you know what? We're going to carve off some of our time from our day job, and we're going to go make this podcast. And we said, yeah, great. It's your time. You've got the expertise. Let's go and do it. And, this is an experiment that we're going to see if it really takes hold. And if it does, we can put some resources behind it. If it's not, we'll learn something from it and go on to the next thing. So that's a really cool one. And then, from the program side of things, the new stuff, I'll tease out a couple things and then I'll be specific about some others. So we are about to launch some new versions of our online courses. They're called Classes on Demand, and they're a much lower price point. They're much more accessible. And that was basically, the vision is, okay, our first courses that we offered were really high touch. They were, over a period of, call it 4 weeks to 12 weeks. They had an instructor in them. They were self-paced, but it was still a cohort, meaning, you can consume the materials on your own time, but there's still assignments and there's still homework and things like that. These are all just like you'd go to Udemy and take a course on your own. That's kind of the style of these. And our vision there is that all the experts in our community can have this platform to start propping up their own courses on the topics they care about. So very excited about the potential for our Classes on Demand that'll be out soon. I think I mentioned earlier we're doing a new in-person program focused on leadership. We've got our sign-up page up for that for people that want more information. We can drop the link in the show notes there if people are interested. And then I think that you probably saw that we also acquired a company called Uncommon Partners this year as well. They're working on some really neat stuff that we're going to be talking about at Global Summit. So Global Summit will kind of be where we do a couple reveals of some new things, but the teaser there is that it's in the neuroscience space. So there's some cool stuff happening with neuroscience and how we're starting to use that in our programs that I think people will find to be pretty interesting.
Well, Adam, I think this was a great conversation. Singularity University has been an organization that I've been looking up to for a while, and I honestly can't think of another group that has assembled the visionaries and innovators that SU has. So I'm very excited for what's to come. Thank you again for joining me on the podcast.
Ryan, thank you so much for having me. I definitely had fun. Obviously, anytime I get to talk about Singularity, it's definitely fun. Hope the audience enjoyed it. Thanks everybody for listening in. I'll give Ryan, I'll leave you my email in case anybody wants to reach out, has more questions, would be happy to connect. But thanks for having me today.
Hey everyone, Ryan O'Shea again, and thanks for listening to my interview with Adam Hofmann. Remember to check out the show notes and more at futuregrind.org. Make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and you can also like, comment, and share to spread the word. Don't forget about our special offer. Save 10% on tickets to the SU Global Summit, which will take place from August 19th to 21st, 2019 in San Francisco by using code FutureGrind during payment. Visit futuregrind.org for more information. We also need your help to keep this podcast running. You can donate at futuregrind.org/support or make a purchase at futuregrind.org/store. Till next time, this is Future Grind.